Chosen one, stop what you are doing. Do not let this be background noise, because a word has been released over you, and the word is move. And I need to tell you inside the first 30 seconds that this is not about a city. There is a tightness across your shoulders that arrives before the day does. There is a particular exhaustion that has nothing to do with how much you slept, and everything to do with one conversation you keep having in your own head. And there is that specific loneliness of standing somewhere you have outgrown with nobody you can say that to. In the last 72 hours, something happened and you filed it under nothing. Go back and take it out of the file. Maybe it was walking into a room and feeling nothing where you used to feel something. Maybe it was somebody asking about your plans and you hearing your own answer come out, rehearsed. Maybe it was a door closing so cleanly that it almost felt arranged. Or maybe it was catching yourself doing the arithmetic again, counting how many years you have already put into this. And there was a night recently somewhere after 2 when you were awake and doing that arithmetic, not praying, counting, adding up what has already been spent, and trying to work out whether the total permits you to stop. Here is the turn. You are not being asked to leave. You left a long time ago. You are being asked to stop paying rent on a room you already moved out of. Something has worked very hard to keep you paying. Not a monster with horns. Something far more reasonable than that. It speaks in the voice of loyalty and of maturity and of not being the kind of person who quits. It reminds you what walking away would say about the years. And it is not afraid of your weakness, because your weakness has never threatened it once. It is afraid of you doing one specific calculation correctly, because the moment you run that number properly, the entire argument collapses, and it has nothing else to say. You have been trying to become certain enough to move. That was never the order of operations. The most famous departure in the whole text began with no address attached. Go, and then I will show you. The instruction came first, and the destination was withheld on purpose, and that is not a design flaw. That is the design. In the next 24 hours, you may notice something loosen its grip slightly. Not resolve, loosen. An obligation that has felt permanent may start to feel like a choice you are making. And it is also possible you notice nothing at all, and that would take nothing away from what is true, because a feeling was never going to be the evidence here. You are here because you kept your word in a season where breaking it would have cost you nothing. You are here because you stayed longer than was good for you, out of loyalty, not out of fear. You are here because something in you has been standing up slowly for months and has not been given permission to finish. Earlier this week there was a moment. You were somewhere ordinary, putting something away, waiting for something to load, standing in a doorway with your keys already in your hand, and for about 4 seconds you saw the next few years laid out exactly as they are, unchanged, and something in your chest went flat. You thought that was discouragement. It was not. That was a notice period beginning, and your body understood the date before your mind was given permission to. The algorithm put this in front of you. That is a mechanical fact, and I am not going to dress it up. But no algorithm has ever made a tired person sit still while somebody tells them to get up. And your stillness right now is the part that was never mechanical. So here is what I am going to do. I am going to name 7 things you are being asked to leave behind. 7. Not 7 areas to work on, and not 7 signs to check yourself against. 7 stages of one single departure, and by the end you will be saying the 7th one out loud with me. I am going to take away the requirement that you be certain before you are allowed to stand up. You have been waiting for a level of clarity that was never on offer, and at some point in this, you are going to be allowed to move without it. And near the end, I am going to show you the real reason you have not moved. It is not fear. It is not lack of faith. And it is not the people around you. It is a piece of arithmetic that has been running in the background of your life since long before this situation, and I am not going to name it yet. Stay, because here is what leaving early looks like, and I want you to see it in full color. It is a Tuesday, about 4 months from now. Nothing has changed. You are in the same chair, having the same internal conversation, and you have a vague memory of a night when something almost broke open, and you were called somewhere and did not come back to it. You will remember that there was something. You will not remember what it was. That is the only thing at risk here. Not a blessing, a sentence. Let me tell you why I know the shape of this. Years ago, I sat across from a man who had given 19 years to something that stopped being right around year 6. He was not complaining. He listed the reasons calmly, in order, the way you would present a case, and every reason was true. And when he finished, he said, "So you see why I cannot go." And I remember thinking that he had not built an argument for staying. He had built a receipt, and he was reading it to me, hoping I would tell him it was enough. That is the lie, and I want to name it plainly so that you recognize its voice this week. The lie says, if you leave now, everything you already gave was wasted. That is the whole sentence. It sounds like integrity, it sounds like commitment, and it has held more good people in place than fear ever has. There is a line at the beginning of Genesis where a man is told to leave his country, his relatives, and his father house, and go to a land that will be shown to him. Notice the order. The leaving is specified in detail. The destination is one vague phrase. Put that in the language of your kitchen at 2 in the morning. The address is not the condition of the departure, and it never was. Chosen one, that is the ground we are standing on. Now we walk. There is a difference between leaving a place and having already left it, and everything that comes next depends on you feeling that difference in your body, not just agreeing with it. Leaving is an event. It has a date, it has consequences, it requires courage and a plan, and usually a conversation nobody wants to have. That is what you have been bracing for, and that is why you have not moved, because you have been trying to summon enough of something to survive an event. Having already left is not an event. It is a description of where you actually are, and I want you to check it against your own life, rather than take my word for anything. When did you last make a long-term plan there and mean it? When did you last defend it to somebody without hearing your own voice sound thin? When did you last picture yourself there in 5 years without immediately steering away from the picture? You already know. You stopped belonging to that place a while ago. Something in you filed the notice and never told you. Here is what changes when you accept that. If leaving is still ahead of you, then your job is to become brave enough for something enormous, and bravery is a resource that arrives late and unreliably. If leaving already happened, then your job is much smaller and much less dramatic. Your job is to stop funding a place you no longer live in. That is the first thing I can hand you before we go further. The exhaustion you have been calling burnout is not the exhaustion of a person working too hard. It is the exhaustion of a person maintaining 2 residences. You have been keeping a life going somewhere you left, out of your own pocket, without noticing that this is what the money was for. Notice what happened in your chest just then, or notice that nothing happened, which is equally common and equally fine. That did not need a feeling in order to be true. Your capacity to feel something today is weather. What we are doing is geography. I want to pause and put something in front of you before we go on, because it belongs here and nowhere else. Over the last several years, something has been found in research laboratories that almost nobody in rooms like ours has been told about. Not because it contradicts anything sacred, but because it came from a direction we are not watching. A small group of neuroscientists, led by a physician in New York who has spent 20 years on this, found something about how the human brain is built. that explains an experience people like you have had your whole lives without ever having language for it. It traces back to a Nobel Prize, and what you actually do with it is so simple that it sounds suspicious the first time you hear it. I will give it to you in full later in this message. Right now, I want you to carry one question through everything else we say. What if the reason you cannot see the next place is not fear, and not disobedience, and not a shortage of faith? What if the part of you that reads direction was quietly taken offline years before this situation even started? Hold that. We are going somewhere else first. The first thing you are being asked to leave behind is the rehearsed answer. And I want to be careful here, because this sounds minor, and it is not. Here is the symptom. Somebody asks how it is going, and a paragraph comes out of you that you did not compose in the moment. It is smooth. It has the same 3 points in the same order every time. It ends on a note that closes the topic politely. You have delivered it so many times that you no longer hear it, and there is a specific tiredness that follows it that you have never connected to the speech itself. Here is the wrong explanation you have been handed: that you are being private or professional, or that you simply do not want to burden people. Some of that is even true, but it is not the whole account, and the missing part is expensive. Now, the real mechanism. Every time you deliver the rehearsed answer, you are not only informing somebody else, you are rehearsing it to yourself. And a rehearsed account, repeated enough, stops functioning as a description and starts functioning as a wall. The mind treats a well-practiced narrative as settled, and settled material does not get reopened. You are not lying to anybody. You are quietly closing the file in your own head several times a week for years. That is why people who talk about their situation constantly can go a decade without any movement in it. The talking was the maintenance, not the examination. So, let me put the meaning back where it belongs. You are not stuck because you have not thought about it enough. You are stuck partly because you have described it too well. And the authority over that belongs to you, not to me, and not to the voice that has been billing you for loyalty. You, which is exactly why the next stretch of this is going to teach you what to look at instead of telling you what to feel. If it helps, do this with me. If you can, put one hand flat on your chest, and if you cannot, if you are driving or there are people nearby, do it in your mind only, because it works the same. Now, say this quietly. I am allowed to give a different answer. Say it once more, slower, and a third time, and this time say it as something you are deciding rather than something you are hoping for. That is the first of the 7, and it is yours to keep. And if somebody came to mind while I said that, somebody who has been giving you the rehearsed answer for years, leave their name in the comments. Not for me, so that one person gets asked a real question this week by somebody who was paying attention. What comes next has a name, and the name is the audience. Stay close, we have only just started. There is a group of people you have been staying for, and I do not think you have ever written the list down. Some of them are named. A parent whose opinion still occupies more room than you would admit. A person who once said something about you that you have been disproving ever since. Somebody who left in a way you found unforgivable, and whose exit set the terms for what your own would have to look like. And some of them are not real. There is a version of a watching public in your head, an amalgam of everyone who has ever formed an opinion about you, and it has a seat at every decision you make. It does not applaud, and it does not condemn. It just watches, and its presence is enough. I want to tell you about a woman named Ruth, and I want to tell it without the wedding polish. She was a widow, foreign, poor, with no standing anywhere, and when she left toward nothing. There was no opportunity waiting. She attached herself to an older woman who had explicitly told her to go home, and who was so bitter on arrival that she asked people to stop using her own name. That is what Ruth walked into. Not a better place, a harder one, with somebody in it who was worth going with. Nobody in that story approved of the move at the time. The text records exactly one person who thought it was a good idea, and it was Ruth. Here is the second thing you are being asked to leave behind. The audience, not the people, most of whom love you, the seats. And now, I have to open something, and then walk away from it, on purpose. There is a name. Heaven has been using a specific name for you. And it is not chosen one, which is a category, and it is not your given name which your parents chose before they knew you. It is one particular word, and it has been in use for a long time. I am not going to tell you what it is yet. If I said it now, you would hear it as a compliment, and it is not a compliment. It is an assignment, and assignments land badly on people who have not yet understood what they are being moved out of. What I will tell you today is only this. It is one word. That is all you get for now. Now, put everything down for a while. We are going to stop working. Notice where you are physically, the surface under you, the temperature of the air on the backs of your hands. Whatever sound is happening in another room or outside the window, the one you have been filtering out this whole time in order to listen to me. Nothing to do here. No assignment. If your mind wanders, let it wander. Whatever you have been holding together is suspended for the next few minutes. I keep coming back to Jacob leaving Laban, and the detail that stays with me is not the escape. It is the 20 years. 20 years of moved goalposts, of a wage changed 10 times, of a man who kept finding new reasons why the arrangement had to continue a little longer. And the text is very plain about the moment it ended. It does not say Jacob got brave. It says he looked at the face of the man he had been working for and saw that it was not toward him as it had been before. That was the whole thing, not a vision, not a voice in a storm. He read a face correctly, once, after 20 years of reading it generously. Sometimes the departure begins with an act of perception, not an act of courage. And perception is quieter, and it is cheaper, and almost nobody counts it as spiritual. Breathe all the way out, and let the next one come in by itself. There is a skill in the next part, and by the end of it, you will be able to tell loyalty apart from a bad debt. The work is still going. Stay in it. I want to give you a word, because a word is a thing you can carry out of here and use for the rest of your life. In Hebrew, there is a term that appears in 2 places that seem to have nothing to do with each other. Tikva. In the book of Joshua, it is the scarlet cord that a woman named Rahab tied in her window before the city fell. And in Jeremiah, it is the word translated hope in the line about plans for a future. Same word. A rope and a hope, spelled identically, used by the same people in the same language. Sit with what that means for a second. In that language, hope was not a feeling in your chest. Hope was a physical object you tied to something before you left, so that the place you were going could find you. And notice when Rahab tied it. Before. Not after the walls came down. Not once the outcome was secured. She tied a rope in a window while the city was still standing, and everything still looked permanent. And the rope was the entire difference between her household and everybody else on that street. That is the third thing you are being asked to leave behind. The ledger, the account you keep of everything already invested, which you have been reading as a reason to stay when it is only ever a record of what happened. And the name I am keeping from you, I will add one property and then leave it alone again. It is not a description of you, it is a job. One more piece here, because people use this one for years afterwards. There is a difference between a season that is hard and a season that is finished, and most people cannot tell which one they are in, so they treat every hard season as a test of endurance and outlast the wrong ones. Here is how you separate them, and it takes about 10 seconds. A hard season still teaches you things. You are learning, even if it hurts. A finished season repeats. You are having the same conversation, meeting the same wall, making the same adjustment for the third or fourth time, and nothing new is being added. Run it honestly. Ask whether the last 12 months taught you anything you did not already know by the end of the first 3. If yes, stay a while longer. The building is still going. If no, you are not being tested. You are being kept. That is not a comforting reframe. That is a diagnostic, and you just ran it on yourself, and you already know which one it returned. Now, I want to handle something you are probably thinking, because if I do not name it, it will quietly eat the rest of this. You are thinking that you have heard versions of this before, that you felt fired up for 2 days, and then the week closed back over you, and nothing was different, and you are wondering whether you are about to do that again. I want to say that the suspicion is not a spiritual weakness. It is intelligence. It is what a mind does after being disappointed enough times to start protecting itself. If you were not suspicious right now, I would be more worried about you, not less. But look at what you actually tried before. You tried to change how you felt about the situation, feel more decisive, more courageous, more at peace with it. And feeling is the least stable material a human being has. Building anything on it is like building on weather. That is not what we are doing here. We are not adjusting your feelings. We are looking at a mechanism sitting underneath them, on a floor of the building you have never visited. That is not a failure on your part. Nobody showed you the stairs. And one more thing while we are here, because somebody needs it. There is a difference between being trapped and being obligated, and they produce almost identical symptoms. Trapped means the exits are genuinely closed. Obligated means the exits are open, and you have decided the cost of using them is unacceptable. Most people who describe themselves as trapped are obligated, and that is not an insult. It is good news, because obligations can be renegotiated and walls cannot. If somebody came to mind twice while I was saying that, send them this. Not because they need fixing. Because a person doing this alone and a person doing it with company are not going through the same thing at all. The next part goes deeper than the one before it, and it asks something small of your body. Let your shoulders drop about an inch. The work is still going. There is a fear underneath all of this that almost nobody says out loud, so I will say it for you. It is not the fear of the unknown. You have handled unknowns before, and you handled them well. It is the fear that without this place you do not know what you are. Because somewhere along the way, the function you perform there stopped being something you do and became the answer to the question of who you are. You are the reliable one, the one who holds it together, the one who does not leave. And a role, unlike a job, cannot be resigned from quietly. It has to be dismantled, and there is a period in the middle where you are not the old thing and not yet the new one, and that gap is the actual thing you have been avoiding, not the leaving, the gap. I want to say something about that gap, and I want to be exact, because vague comfort is worse than none. The gap is real. It is not brief, and it is not comfortable, and anybody who tells you the next thing arrives the moment you let go of the last one is selling you something. What I will tell you is that the gap is survivable, that it is not a punishment, and that almost everything you actually value about yourself was built during a period like it. Here is the fourth thing you are being asked to leave behind: the role, not the qualities, the costume. The qualities travel. This is the part people miss, and it changes everything. The reliability you built there is not the property of that place. The patience you learned is not stored in that building. You did not borrow those from the room. You built them in the room, and they leave with you the same way a language does. Nobody has to give them back to you at the door. Now stop again for a while, because the next stretch will ask more of you, and you should not walk into it tired. Nothing to do. Nothing to hold. There was a period in my own life, years ago now, where I stayed somewhere for 2 years past the point where I knew. I do not have a noble story about it. What I remember most clearly is a small thing. I had a route I drove most days, and at some point I started taking a longer way around, and it took me almost a year to admit to myself that I was doing it to avoid passing a particular building. I told myself it was traffic. It was not traffic. My body had already made a decision and had been quietly rearranging my week around it, while my mouth was still saying everything was fine. I am not telling you that, so you will feel something. You may feel nothing from it, and that is allowed. I am telling you because the body files the decision first, and it starts acting on it long before the mind signs anything. And once you learn to read your own detours, you will never be able to unlearn it. Let the air out of your shoulders. Now, something has to turn here, and it will be uncomfortable for about a minute. Everything I have said so far has placed the problem outside you. The lie about wasted years, the audience in the seats, the role that hardened into an identity, the place that stopped giving and kept taking. All of it real, and I would say every word again. But if the whole cause were outside of you, then you would be a passenger in your own life. And a passenger cannot be sent anywhere, because being sent requires somebody who can be addressed. So, here is the turn in the middle of this. There is one thing in this arrangement that has always been yours, and it is not courage, and it is not certainty. It is direction, not the destination, which you do not have and are not going to get today. Direction, which way you are facing while you stand still. And facing is available to a person who is exhausted, doubting, and completely out of options, which is the only reason I am willing to ask you for it. I said I would show you the real reason you have not moved. I still will not. But you just walked past the edge of it. What comes next is the part people write to me about years later, and I need you here for it. We are approaching the turn. There is one thing you have been waiting for that is never going to arrive, and I would rather you heard it from me tonight than found out in another 4 years. You have been waiting for the place to agree with you, for the situation to become bad enough that leaving is obviously correct, for somebody to behave in a way that settles the question, for a clean, undeniable, externally verified reason that you could hand to anyone who asked. It is not coming, and the reason it is not coming is structural, not spiritual. A place you have outgrown will almost never become intolerable, because the whole nature of outgrowing something is that the thing itself is unchanged. It was fitted to a smaller version of you, and it is still doing exactly what it always did. There is no villain to point at. That is precisely why you are still there. Now I want to separate two things that have been welded together in you for years, and this is the only place in this message where I am going to do it. What has gone wrong here is a matter of fit, not a matter of faithfulness. Those are different categories, and in you they fused so long ago that you cannot feel the seam. Fit is a relationship between two things at a point in time. Faithfulness is what you are. A relationship can stop fitting without changing what you are by a fraction. And nothing is being withdrawn while we say this. You are still covered, still addressed, still held. Nothing has been edited during this conversation, and nothing will be. But take this distinction with you, because it will serve you long after tonight. Regret and shame do not do the same work. Regret points. It says, that direction did not go where you hoped, try another one. It is uncomfortable, and it is useful. Shame does not point anywhere. Shame closes the door and stands in front of it. If what you feel gives you a direction, keep it. If it only gives you a wall, that was never conviction. Here is the fifth thing you are being asked to leave behind: the apology. You are not going to receive permission from the place you are leaving, and you were never going to. And now let me close a loop that has been open since near the beginning of this message, because I told you I would come back to it, and I want to tell you why I waited. I told you A small team of researchers had found something, and I asked you to hold a question. What if the part of you that reads direction went offline years before this situation started? I waited, because what they found is not information. It is a repair. And a repair is worthless to somebody who does not yet understand the exact shape of what is broken. You understand the shape now. You have spent this whole message standing inside it. Before I hand it over, let me name what it explains, so you can measure it against your own life, instead of taking my word for anything. It explains why a person can be completely willing to move and still unable to see one step ahead. It explains why the fog is heavier now than it was at 25, even though you know far more than you did then. And it explains why all the effort you have made has produced so little movement, which I suspect is the part you have blamed yourself for longest. One more property of the name I am keeping from you, and then I will stop delaying. It cannot function in a room. It only becomes operational in motion, which is why sitting still has felt like a slow loss of self rather than a rest. If any of this has your name on it, put one sentence in the comments in your own words, not for the count, because somebody will read this at 3 in the morning looking for evidence that they are not the only person paying for a room they left, and your sentence is what they will find. Now stay very close. What I am about to describe changed how I understand almost everyone I have ever sat with, and it has nothing to do with faith at all. I am going to drop all the imagery now and speak to you in the plainest English I have, because the next few minutes are not poetry and should not sound like it. Here is the why. Your brain has 2 hemispheres, built to run as one synchronized instrument. When they are synchronized, what shows up is not a mood. It is a capacity, recognition, direction sense, the ability to look at 12 possible next steps and know which one is load-bearing. Every older tradition had a word for that capacity, and it turns out to have a physical address. Here is the what. Dr. Roger Sperry received the Nobel Prize in 1981 for research on exactly this, on how the 2 halves of the brain communicate and what happens when that communication is interrupted. It was not trying to be spiritual, it was anatomy, and it established that the synchronized state is a real, measurable condition that can be present in a person or absent from them. Here is the part that should stop you where you sit. In studies of divergent and creative thinking, roughly 98% of young children score at what gets classified as genius level. Fewer than 1 in 1,000 adults still score there. Nothing was removed surgically. Ordinary modern life did it. Noise, screens, chronic low-grade stress, decades of narrowed attention. The synchronization degrades slowly, and it never announces itself, because you have no baseline to compare against except a childhood you barely remember. And here is the who. This is not for people who need motivation. It is for the person who has done the inner work, who has prayed the honest prayers, who has never been lazy in their life, and who is standing at an open door, genuinely willing to walk through it, and unable to see which way it faces. Something hard, and then something kind, in that order. If that describes you, then the last several years of self-accusation were built on a wrong premise, which means the paralysis was avoidable, and that is a hard thing to hear. The kind part is that a wrong premise is the best possible discovery, because it is the only kind of problem a correction can actually fix. That is the 6th thing you are being asked to leave behind, the half-capacity version of your own discernment and the belief that it was the best you had. Before we go further, I want to speak to whoever is going to reach next week and feel like nothing happened. You are not disqualified. Here is what usually arrives first, and it is never the thing people watch for. It is sleep that goes slightly deeper. It is a morning where the first thought is not the situation. It is a conversation where you notice afterwards that you did not brace. Those arrive before the visible changes, and almost everyone dismisses them. because they were scanning the horizon for a headline, and the change came in through the floor. And if none of that arrives either, it still does not mean nothing is happening. It means you cannot see it yet. Those are two different sentences, and only one of them is a verdict. Let us stop for a moment, one last time, before the heavy part. Nothing to do. Nothing to hold. I will add the last property to the name I have been keeping from you, and then the next time I speak of it, I will simply say it. Here is the property. It is not a promotion. Whatever you are picturing, some upgrade earned by endurance, some acknowledgement that you finally qualified, that is not what it is. It is older than your performance, and it was never attached to it. Now let me give you what I promised, all of it, and then leave it alone. The physician I mentioned is a neurologist in New York, named Dr. Daniel Barone. He and his team spent years on one question. If the synchronized state is real, and ordinary life degrades it, can it be restored without drugs, without a clinic, and without asking a person to first become somebody else? Before I tell you what they built, let me tell you about two people, because a mechanism means nothing without them. There is a woman in Manhattan whose family had a word for what happened to them. Bad luck. Wrong star. Her father gave 22 years to one company, and the company shut down within months of finally promoting him. And that was simply the latest entry in a pattern everybody in that family could recite. She had lived her whole adult life inside the expectation of it. Her sentence about what changed has stayed with me. She said, what she had always called a family pattern turned out to have a neurological address. And there is a man in Houston running a business, 2 children. His problem was fog. Not sadness, fog. He said prayer had started to feel like talking into a wall, and he had quietly concluded that the wall was on the other end. 2 weeks in, he said the fog, he had stopped even registering as fog was gone. His words were that his mind felt like it was firing on all cylinders again, and the wall, as far as he could tell, had never been on the other end at all. Both of those happened because of what that team spent those years building. They call it the genius switch. It is an audio sequence. 8 minutes. Headphones on, eyes closed, and you let it run. Nothing to repeat, nothing to visualize, nothing to believe in advance. The technology inside it is called neural sync, and the target is exactly what Sperry mapped, the traffic between the two halves. It is not a relaxation track, and it is not meditation music. Those work on how you feel. The genius switch works on whether the two halves of the instrument are talking to each other, which is why it does something different from everything you already tried. You did not fail at meditation. Meditation was never built for this. You were treating a hardware condition with software for years and blaming your character for the result. I want to say this plainly because it matters more than any of the science. It is not for everyone. It is not for somebody who wants a shortcut, and it is not for somebody who has never done any of the inner work. It is for the chosen one who has done all of it, who stayed too long out of loyalty rather than fear, who has kept every promise they made to people who stopped noticing, and who is standing at an open door with the right heart and an instrument reading direction at half capacity. There is a particular version of this that belongs to people like you. You are not tired in the way people mean when they say tired. You are disconnected from the part of you that used to be dangerous. There was a period when you saw 3 moves ahead without effort, when you knew who was lying before they finished the sentence, when the right direction announced itself. That was not youth. That was synchronization. And what is being described here is not the installation of something new. It is a reactivation of something you had and used and never had to be taught. Now the part everybody wants. Colleagues who saw the research told the team it would be reasonable at $500, and they were not being generous. In person, neurofeedback runs about $300 an hour. The home machines run near 7,000. That is the actual market. This sits inside. It was not released at 500, not 200, not 100. It went out at $49, and on the page where they made it available, there is an additional $10 off, $39. That is where it stands today. 4 things come with it, at no cost. A guided visualization from a top-rated creator on the car map, a grocery guide built around the everyday foods that drive brain fog, with shortcuts saving most households over $100 a month, a manifestation text more than a century old that sells for around $20 on Amazon, and a printable page on the 5 habits that shape a future made to go on a wall. And it is backed by an unconditional money-back guarantee. Listen once, listen 80 times. If it does not do for you what it has done for 18,456 people, every dollar comes back, with no conditions and no argument. Here is why this belongs in a message about being told to move, and then I will set it down. You are not going to be given the destination in advance. That was never the arrangement, and it was not the arrangement for Abraham either. What you need is not a map. What you need is the ability to read one step at a time correctly, on the day, in real conditions, and that ability is not a spiritual gift you either have or lack. It has an address, and the address is the traffic between the 2 halves of your head. One thing worth saying directly: if you go looking on the usual audio platforms for something with a similar name, you will find tracks. The team looked at them. Most had no sync technology in them at all. The name is free to copy. The mechanism is not, and the mechanism is the whole thing. The direct page is the only verified source, and that is where the link below points. If your spirit resonates with what has been described, the link is in the description and in the pinned comment. Nowhere else. Read the entire page before you decide anything. And now I am setting that down, because the last part of this message is what I actually came to say, and it has nothing to sell you. Whatever you decide about any of that changes nothing about the word that was released over you today. None of it is conditional on a transaction. I would rather have your trust in 6 months than your attention for the next 4 minutes. Come back with me now, all the way back to the thing I have been carrying since the first minute of this message. I made you 3 promises. I said 7 things would be named that you are being asked to leave behind, and that you would say the last one with me. I said you would be allowed to move without certainty. And I said that near the end I would show you the real reason you have not moved. 2 of those are paid right now. 1 last property first, and then no more delay. You are closer to it than you were when this began. Not because of anything you did in the last hour. Proximity here was never about performance. Here it is. Sent. That is the name. 1 word. It has been in use for a very long time. It is spoken in the singular, and it is not a promotion you earned by lasting this long. Sit inside it for a second before I take it apart. Sent. Not going. Sent is passive in its origin and active in its outcome, which means the initiative was never yours, and the movement still is. Sent, which requires a sender, and a sender is somebody who has already decided the destination, even when the person carrying it has not been told. Sent, which is the 1 word on this entire list that cannot be performed in a room. You cannot be sent while stationary. That is not a rebuke. That is the reason the last few years have felt like a slow loss of yourself rather than a rest. You have been carrying an identity that has no function at a standstill. And that is the 7th thing you are being asked to leave behind. The old name, whatever you have been answering to, the reliable one, the one who does not quit, the one who stayed. Put it down. It got you here, and it cannot come with you, because it was built to describe somebody standing still. That is 7 things named, the rehearsed answer, the audience in the seats, the ledger of everything already spent, the role that hardened into an identity, the apology you were waiting to be given, the half-capacity discernment you thought was the best you had, and the old name, say it with me once, out loud if you can, I am sent. The contract is closed. Everything I promised at the start has been delivered. Now, there is one more thing, and it is the thing I actually came to say, and I have held it until you were strong enough to hear it, without it landing as an accusation. For this entire message I have put the cause outside you, a lie about wasted years, an audience you never chose, a role that hardened, a place that stopped fitting and did not have the decency to become unbearable. All of it real, and I would say every word again, but none of it is the reason you have not moved. Here is the reason. Stay with me through the next 90 seconds, because there is a door on the other side of it. Somewhere in your history, you learned to protect what you had already spent. Not money, everything, years, effort, reputation, the story you told people about why this was the right call. And there is a specific piece of arithmetic your mind runs, silently, every single time you consider leaving anything. It calculates what is already in, and it treats that total as a reason to continue. It feels exactly like integrity. It uses the same vocabulary, but it is a known error. It has been measured in people who have never met each other, and it is the single most reliable reason human beings stay in rooms they left years ago. Money already spent cannot be recovered by spending more. Years already given cannot be redeemed by giving more. The total is fixed the moment it is spent, and it is identical whether you stay or go. That is the mechanism. I am going to name it so you can catch it for the rest of your life. It is the paid-for room, and it explains what nothing else does. It explains why every reason you have for staying is true, and none of them are why you are staying. You were never weighing the future, you were defending the past. Now hear the rest before you do anything with that, because this is where people get it wrong. The paid-for room is not a character flaw. It is not weakness, and it is not stupidity. It is a protective instinct that runs in almost every human being, and in you, it has been amplified by something genuinely good, which is that you are a person who honors what they commit to. Cheap people leave easily. You are not cheap. The same quality that makes you trustworthy is the one that has been keeping you in place, and that is why you could never argue yourself out of it. You were arguing against your own best trait, and the authority over it is entirely yours from today, not mine, and not the voice that has been billing you for loyalty. Yours, because this arithmetic only works while it stays invisible, and it stopped being invisible about a minute ago. Here is what to do with it, and it is smaller than you expect. You are not going to try to become decisive. Decisiveness is a feeling, and feelings are weather. What you are going to do is run the number correctly once and let it settle. Ask it in one sentence. Knowing everything I know now, and setting aside completely what I have already put in, would I choose this today? Not, was it right to start? It probably was. Not, did I waste those years? That is the wrong question, and it has no useful answer. Only this. Starting from where I actually stand, with nothing behind me counted, would I choose it? You already know your answer. You have known it for a while. What you did not have until tonight is a legitimate reason to disregard the balance, and now you have one, because the balance is the same whether you stay or go. It is not a deposit, it is a total. Nothing you do from here adds to it or takes from it. If you can, put your hand back on your chest. In your mind is fine, it works the same. Say this once. What is spent, and it does not get a vote. Say it again, slower, and a third time, and this time, say it as a decision you are making rather than something you are hoping is true. That is the door. It was always this small. That is why it kept getting missed. And do not walk out of here thinking the name was a nice line. You are sent, which means the next place is not something you have to earn your way into by first proving that the last place was a mistake. Nobody is asking you to file that report. You are not fleeing. You are being moved, and the paperwork was completed before you started counting. There is something you already know about what you are supposed to do next. Not in general. Specifically, it has been sitting there for months, and you have been running the balance against it every time it comes up. If the genius switch is the thing your clarity is pointing at today, then let the clarity carry you while it is still here. The link is in the description below and in the pinned comment. Go and read it before you close this. 18,000 people did that at some point, and none of them did it eventually. They did it on the day they were clear, and that is the last time I will mention it. The rest of this belongs to you. 2 small things. If one line in this landed harder than the rest, put it in the comments in your own words, not for the count. Because somebody will scroll down at 3 in the morning doing arithmetic about years, and your sentence will be the thing they find. And if this is a voice you want to be able to find again, there is a place to come back to. No urgency in that. Heaven does not move faster because of a button, and I will not pretend otherwise. It is simply a door you can leave unlocked. Now let everything else go quiet. I want to tell you what I think is actually happening, and then I want to bless you and let you go. There is a version of you that has spent years holding a position that stopped being yours. That took work. Quiet, unrecognized, daily work. And you did it while also keeping promises, showing up, and being the person other people relied on to be steady. That version has been extraordinary, and nobody throws a service for the retirement of somebody like that. So I am doing it here. And the next version of you is not braver. That is the part people get wrong. What is coming is not a tougher you, it is a lighter one. The same person, with the same loyalty, carrying it towards something instead of holding it against a wall. So hear this the way it is meant. You are not a person who is stuck. That framing has been in your mouth so long that it tastes like honesty, and it is not honesty. It is an old address you kept using after you moved out. You are sent. You are the one who stayed longer than was good for you, out of loyalty and not out of fear. You are the one who kept your word when nobody was checking, and you are not being punished with a departure. You are being released into the only part of your life where that name has ever been able to work. Now let me pray this over you rather than explain it. May the arithmetic go quiet. May the balance stop having a vote in rooms where it has no standing. May you run the number correctly once, and may the answer arrive without drama and without needing anybody to agree with it. And may the loyalty in you, which is real and which is rare, find something in front of it worth spending itself on. May you be found facing the right way. Not certain, not ready, just facing. May the tightness across your shoulders begin to ease, and may you not require it to prove anything before you trust it. May you sleep like somebody who is not maintaining 2 residences, and may whatever you have been carrying alone be quietly lifted out of one hand, so that the other hand has something free in it when the road opens. And here is what you do with this. Nothing dramatic, and nothing today that cannot be undone. Do not quit anything tonight. Do not send the message at midnight. Instead, do one small thing that only makes sense if you are leaving. Tie the rope in the window. Make the inquiry. Ask the question you have been rehearsing. Say the true sentence to one person who has only ever heard the practiced one. Small, reversible, and honest. That is how a departure actually begins. And anybody who tells you it begins with a dramatic gesture has never made one. Do not go looking for a sign afterwards. Signs are for people who need permission. And you stopped needing permission somewhere in the middle of this message. Go looking for how much lighter the next ordinary Tuesday feels. That will be the evidence, and it will come quickly, or it will come slowly. And either way, it is not the measure of whether any of this was true. And notice something before you leave. You stayed. This was long, and you had 100 reasons to go, and something in you kept choosing to stay through every one of them. That was not me holding you. I have no ability to hold anyone. That was you, deciding, over and over, for the length of this whole message. Which means the word I put on you at the very beginning is not a label I handed you. It is one you have spent the last hour demonstrating. You did not receive it. You confirmed it. So go. Not tomorrow. Go the way somebody stands up from a table when the thing that needed saying has finally been said. You are sent. You were sent before you were stuck. You have been sent the entire time you were sitting still, and you will still be sent on the morning when nothing outward has changed yet. And whatever else happens between now and then, I want you to know that you were seen tonight, exactly as you are, including the years nobody counted. Go gently, chosen one. You are held, you are addressed by name, and nothing you gave has been lost.